In a lot of Paisa's minds, they can't comprehend an American actually pulling a woman here in Medellin without having to do P for P. They can't comprehend it. They think that we're all in the same box. We all got the same game. We all come here and we pay for box. That's what they all think. Am I done with Colombia? Is this it for Colombia for me? Am I ever going to come back to Colombia again? Because maybe I'm not. Because that type of situation, it's just not good to be in those type of situations over and over like that.
Hey, Jamie Woods, we here to travel and motivate. No curry, we just trying to keep our minds in a golden state. We answer to nobody but the Lord, we control our fate. Too many things to see just to sit in a hole and bake. We growing, ayy.
All right, listen, guys. It's been, I would say, almost a week that I've been in Medellin. And there's certain things about Medellin that I love, but there are certain things that I hate about Medellin. And this is in no way, no form, disrespect to the beautiful city of Medellin, because I've stated over and over that I love Medellin and especially the people of Medellin. However, just like any major city on the world, or in the world, I should say, there are some rotten apples. But September 2nd was my birthday. That was Tuesday. So basically, my girl hooked me up with a tour of Guatapé. So basically, you go into Guatapé, you do the boat tour, you do everything, right? So I was very happy about this because I always did want to visit and really get a deep tour of all these areas. So I go ahead and I go with her. And so far, the birthday was going great. Everything was going good. Going up the Guatapé Rock was amazing, even though I was so tired and exhausted by it. But everything was great up until we got into the boat tour. So the boat tour goes around that whole river, whatever you want to call it, around the rock. So we were there, and everything was going good. We got some drinks, having a good old time. The sun was out. We were watching all the beautiful views. We saw Pablo's old mansions. It was really cool. However, this is when things took a turn for the worse. No?
Sos paisa, sos antioqueño, sos la flor para el jardín, sos insignia de esta tierra, pues eres de Medellín. Él es de Estados Unidos y se lo trajo la brisa. Mi amor, aproveche el socio y ahí se consigue la visa. Mentiras es por joder, estando aquí en mi país. Estados Unidos siempre, aquí puede ser feliz. Las puertas están abiertas, por eso eres bienvenido. Y un aplauso en que se escuche, que sea para Estados Unidos.
So, I've discussed this before, guys, about the gringo hate in Medellin, Colombia. I experienced a little bit of gringo hate last year with a guy sticking the middle finger at me for no apparent reason while I was with my family. Then I had a situation in Parque Llérez where a guy told me that, I went to his country for sex tourism and all that other crap, right? So I had my fair share of experiences. However, this experience, in my personal opinion, might have been more embarrassing than those situations. So let me get into it real quick. So we're sitting, and in Colombia, if you guys don't know, there are these singers that, they're either in restaurants or whatever. They're in special events. These singers that go to table and they ask you where you're from. And then they make a song depending on where you're from. So for example, if you say you're from Brazil, they're going to start singing and be like, oh, Brazil's so beautiful and da-da-da-da. They're going to say all this cute, catchy shit in their Colombian style. It's like a freestyle type of thing that they do out here, right? So everything was great. Brazil was mentioned. Of course, Colombia was mentioned. DR, Germany, Italy, Spain, everybody was mentioned, right? And everything was good. And he was singing so beautifully and said so many beautiful things about all these countries. And then he finally got to me. So let me give you guys a bit of a background, okay? So my girl, she's from Medellin, Colombia. Okay, she's a beautiful Paisa girl from Medellin, Colombia, and I'm an American man from the United States. But of course, my mother and father were from the Dominican Republic, so I do understand Spanish. So, anyways, now that that's out the way, he comes to us and he asks us, "Where are you guys from?" So I told him straight up. I was like, "All right, I'm from the United States, and she's from Medellin." And the moment that I told him that, he literally gave me a weird look. He was like that. And I thought at first, oh, maybe he's confused. Maybe he didn't understand what I told him. So I repeated it. I'm from the United States. She's from Medellin. He still made the face. After that, I already knew what the deal was. That wasn't a face of confusion. That was a face of judgment. So he turned back around to look at the crowd. Everyone was like staring at us laughing. Of course, you guys are going to see it in the video. And then after that, he faces us again and he looks at my girl. And then he starts singing to my girl. And it's not word for word what he said, but just to summarize what he was saying, he basically said that she should use me for my visa. Basically, just to cut to the chase. And so I had this all recorded, by the way. And I was looking at the guy and I gave him a look. And I'm you guys know me well. I've repeated this over and over. I'm not an arguer. I don't like to argue. I don't like to fight. I don't like war. I don't like battle. But when someone pushes me, when someone tests me, I have no choice. I don't want to battle anyone. I don't want to go to war with anyone. But if you want to go to war with me, I'm going to go to war with you. So I gave him a death stare, right? Because I didn't want to make a scene. Because the last thing I wanted to do as a gringo, because I'm very self-aware of the reputation that us gringos and Americans especially have in Medellin. Okay? We're a lot of the time, Paisas specifically, I can't really speak for the rest of Colombia because I haven't been to the rest of Colombia. But here in Medellin specifically, I've gotten so many weird stares. Weird stares because I told my girl about it. I was like, why is it that I'm getting so many like weird stares? And she was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you don't notice all the people giving me these weird ass stares? Like when we went to Santa Fe Mall in Medellin, of course, you guys know where Santa Fe is at. That's all the baddies are, right? So I went in there and at first it was good. But then after a while, I noticed people like staring at us. And it wasn't normal stares. It wasn't like you know when you like pass by someone, you look at them and you keep it moving. Nah, it was just like a similar to what the guy made in the boat. Very similar to that type of stare. It was like a stare of judgment. And I think people knew I was American and that she was a Colombian woman. Like they just understood what the situation was, even without us having to say a word. And people had no shame in judging me and giving me weird ass stares. And I remember sometimes I'll be going to restaurants with my girl and like the waitress or the waiter would come up to us. And a lot of the time they wouldn't be staring at me. They would be staring at her as if she was the one that was paying. And at first I didn't really think anything of it. I'm like, it's just one waiter, one waitress, right? But then after a while I noticed it became a trend where I was completely ignored and they were just talking to my girl. And I thought also that it might have been a thing where it was out of respect for my girl, where, you know how some girls will only speak to the girl and not the guy out of respect for the woman, so that way the woman doesn't get jealous, right? I assumed it was that. But it wasn't even that. It was just, even with the guys, it was the same thing. The guy waiters would come up to us, completely ignore me, and just look at her. Talk to her. As if she was the one that paid. When they handed us the bill, they'd give her the bill, not me, as if she was the one that was paying. And this is no offense to her, but it's like, fam, if I'm the one that's paying, I expect a little bit of fair treatment here. At least say hi, at least talk to me or whatever. I've had so many weird encounters here in Medellin, and it crushes me. It really does crush me because I love this place so freaking much. But because of the reputation that's been laid down before I got here, I have to suffer as a gringo. And I thought that because I was Latino, because I'm of Dominican descent, right? So a typical Dominican from the island, if they were to come here, they'd be treated very well. But because I'm an American with Dominican descent, I get treated like any other American. And I thought that was an advantage for me. The fact that I spoke Spanish, the fact that I look Latino, the fact that I know the culture, I thought it was an advantage, but it wasn't, right? And maybe it'll open some doors for you. But for the most part, regardless of where you're from, if you're born in America, if you live in America, you are seen as a gringo, as a foreigner, or a sex tourist. So back to the boat. So when I told that guy where we were from, in those 10 seconds or so that he was looking at us, he was probably thinking the worst case scenario. He was probably thinking that I paid her to come on the boat because she's an attractive woman, right? Her jugs was hanging out a little bit. So I'm not saying she was dressed like an escort, but he assumed she was an escort because in his mind, in a lot of Paisa's minds, they can't comprehend an American actually pulling a woman here in Medellin without having to do P for P. They can't comprehend it. They think that we're all in the same box. We all got the same game. We all come here and we pay for box. That's what they all think. And I'm sorry, guys. It might sound sensitive, but I find that very offensive, right? I have nothing against people that do P for P because it's legal. I have nothing against that. That's something you want to do, go ahead. But I don't do that. That's not what I do. Every country I go to, for the most part, I pull. You know what I mean? I don't do P for P. And I know the doubters going to go in the comment sections and y'all going to be like, oh, you lying. Stop capping with the cap sounds. Stop capping. Because you're a bunch of losers. That's why. Because you can't believe that a dude can go into this country and pull a chick without having to do P for P. Okay? Don't put me in the box with these other dudes, okay? No disrespect to them. Do not put me in the box with them, okay? I speak the language. I can do everything. All right? So, back to what I was saying. When we were on that boat, I felt a huge sense of embarrassment for me and for her. And we discussed this already in private. We discussed it. I felt a huge sense of embarrassment because all eyes were on me at that point, right? All eyes were on me. They're thinking this sex tourist, this typical American coming here and taking a prostitute, an escort, and making it seem like he pulled the chick or whatever it is. And then you had my girl who felt terrible. She felt terrible because she felt like people thought she was an escort. Like if I was paying her to be there. And so I felt even more worse for her than myself because me, I know I can handle that. But with her, I'm not saying she's fragile, but that's hard. That's hard on a chick. You know what I mean? There's the other side we're not talking about as well with some of these Colombian girls that are actually dating American men that have good intentions, that when they go out to these type of events and these things, when they say, hey, my man's American or whatever, I'm dating a gringo, people are just going to start assuming that it's P for P, that it's an arrangement by money or whatever it is. And that's not always the case, ladies and gentlemen. There are certain Americans and gringos that are actually winning here in Colombia or Brazil or wherever in the world that don't need to refer to P for P to get a chick. So one more thing I want to get to before I conclude this video, and that is the jealousy that I've noticed towards American men by Colombian locals, specifically the men, okay? The men here do not like it when Americans come here and take their women, especially if they're pretty. They do not like that. That does not sit very well with them. And I know that for a fact because I've experienced this multiple times since being here in Colombia. Like I said, I got weird ass stairs in Santa Fe. The situation that happened to me on the boat. The situations that happened to me last year. Just a lot of weird situations. And I can tell because the thing is, when he said what he said, because I've always paid attention to a saying. It goes along the line of this. Is there's always truths to every joke. So you know those like when you're hanging out with the boys and you be busting each other's chops and you got that one jealous friend of yours that always likes cracking little jokes about you, about whatever it is, about your insecurities or whatever it is you do. You know what I mean? And then they'll look at you to see how you react and they'll see that you're a little bit offended by it. And then when they see you're offended by it, they'll be like, oh, come on, man, just take a joke. You know what I mean? It's just a joke, Literally, that's what happened with me. Homeboy saw how I reacted. I was pissed. And he was like, oh, no, it was just a joke. It was just a joke. Come on, man. Have some sense of humor. But I knew there was a lot of truth into what he was saying. Meaning that he truly meant what he said. And he tried to disguise it as a joke, but in reality, it was a diss. That's really what it was. He's jealous, and guys like him in Colombia, locals, are jealous that extranjeros or foreigners are coming to their country and taking their women. They don't like that. They don't like that we could just come out here and outmuscle them and wave our dollars around and take their girls. They don't like that. A lot of these guys, no offense, this is no offense, no disrespect to any of my Colombian men out here. You know, I love y'all. I have a lot of love for y'all. But I'm talking about these specific type of men that be insecure and getting jealous all the damn time. I'm talking about them, okay? Because they be mad as hell. Yo, what the fuck is that? Hold on. Nah. Hold on a second, man. Nah. That motherfucker needed. Oh, hell nah. Oh, hell nah. Oh, hell no. I'm out of here, guys. I'm out. Oh, hell no. That was a weird ass bug. I ain't fucking with that shit. Continuation. So, some of these guys just feel like it's just really unfair. And so they'll do jokes like that, and they'll be giving you weird ass stares, and they'll be saying weird things to you, knowing that you're not going to understand the language, because a lot of us Americans come here without an understanding of the culture and, of course, no understanding of the language. So this guy said what he said out of jealousy, out of insecurity, thinking that I didn't speak the language. I was going to be just a typical gringo that didn't know Spanish. And then once he realized I caught on to what he was saying, that I knew Spanish, then he backtracked on it and he was like, oh no, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. Take a joke. And then he started singing beautifully about the United States and about Colombia. And I'm like, you piece of shit, bro. I already knew what the fuck you were trying to say. And the fact you did that on my birthday and he knew it was my birthday, I don't know, man. Imagine being disrespected like that in your birthday. Having everyone laugh at you, everyone giving you weird ass stares on the boat. It did not sit well with me. And the thing is, I'm kind of glad that I ignored it. Like, a part of me really wanted to tell him something. Like, I was about to spaz on this guy very similarly to what happened last year when I spazzed on that other guy in Parque Llares, except maybe worse, because I thought this was way more disrespectful than that. You know, and thank God I learned from that, mistake, and I kept my mouth shut and I just let it be. All I had to do was just give him the death stare. Just give him the death stare, like that stare of like, yo, don't say that again, like, backtrack there. I gave him that type of stare. And he knew what was up. And then after that, he tried to clean things up after that. But the damage was done at that point because my girl felt like shit. Just because of that, I wanted to tell him something. I don't give a fuck about me. It's the fact you try to embarrass my woman because she chose an American over a Colombian. And you thought she was a prostitute. Like, come on, man, that's fucked up. You know what I mean? So it does go both ways with American men and Colombian women that are dating American men, where we both get criticized for our choices and our decisions. I just wanted to talk to you guys about that situation. Of course, I did have the video proof so you guys can see that. So you see I'm not exaggerating. But if you think I'm exaggerating, you think I'm wrong, please let me know in the comment section. But I don't think I'm exaggerating. I don't think that I was wrong in this situation. In fact, I handled it very well. And that actually reminds me, guys, that if I had acted on that situation and I would have told them something or I would have done something, I would have been on the headline news. I would have been on the headline news in Colombia. They would have said, angry gringo attacks Colombian man with no context, right? They're just going to show me attacking him or show me dissing him without showing context of what happened beforehand. And then that would have just made this shit even worse for us Americans, because that's what happens here. Every time an American goes through some bullshit, like here in Medellin, Colombia, they always want to put the blame on the Americans and never put the blame on the Colombians themselves, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, this isn't about hating on Colombia, okay, or Colombians or Colombian men. This isn't like that at all. I love Colombia. I love Colombian people. However, there are certain people, just like anywhere else on this planet, that ruin it for travelers, for tourists, for foreigners. Okay, I come to this country with good intentions. I respect this country like if it were my own. I respect the people like if they were my own. And I expect that same treatment as a tourist coming into your country. Because if you were to come into my country, to the United States, I'm treating y'all as one of me, as one of us, as an American. Okay. So I expect that same treatment when I go to your fabulous country. All right. And for a little bit last night, I was thinking about it. I'm like, yo, should I ever come back to Medellin again? Should I ever come back to Colombia again? Because those type of incidents, because it's repeated incidents that I've been here in Colombia, and it makes you think, man, like maybe this isn't it for me. Maybe this is not the country for me. So I was thinking, am I done with Colombia? Is this it for Colombia for me? Am I ever going to come back to Colombia again? Because maybe I'm not, because that type of situation, it's just not good to be in those type of situations over and over like that, especially since I am not a sex tourist. I don't engage in any of that crap. Okay. So no, I'm not done with Colombia. I think there's a lot more to come from Colombia. I might take a break from Colombia because there are other countries I want to visit over coming again to Colombia, because I do get bored of going to the same place over and over. So I'm gonna try out some places in Asia and all that. But yeah, guys, Colombia is a fabulous country. But just be aware that there is a bit of gringo hate here, and just ignore it. You know what I mean? Try to ignore it. Don't act upon it. I know it's difficult, but the last thing we want as Americans, as gringos, as tourists, as foreigners, is for these people to put us on the headline news and then label us as the villain. Okay? Because that's exactly what would have happened if I would have done something in that very moment. Okay, so guys, that's the video for today. Like, subscribe, and make sure you guys check out the Patreon for exclusive footage and content you will not see on YouTube. But thank you again, guys. Until next time, adios.